Hare Already on. Bring it on. See, this, you don't have to bring it on because it is on. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Allah Jaya Girivaradhare Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Girivaradhare Jaya Girivaradhare Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Jaya Pancha Tattva, Jaya Pancha Tattva, Jaya Pancha Tattva, Jaya Pancha Tattva. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Panchatattva ki jai, Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, we're reading from Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto 10. Chapter 5, the meeting of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva. Text 12 without the purport, and then we'll read text 13. So text 12. It's about Krishna, huh? Okay. Okay. Offering blessings to the newborn child, Krishna, the wives and daughters of the cowherd men said, "May you become the king of Raja and long maintain all its inhabitants." They sprinkled a mixture of turmeric powder, oil and water upon the birthless Supreme Lord and offered their prayers. Okay. Text 13. Technology will be helpful. Okay, Jai. Avadyanta vichitrani Vaditrani mahotsave Krishna Vishveshvarenante Nandasya Vrajam Agate Avadyanta Vichitrani Vaditrani Mahotsave Krishna Vishveshvarenante Nandasya Vrajam Agate Vadyanta Vichitrani Patitrani Mahotsave Krishna Vishveshvarenante Nandasya Vrajamagate Vadyanta Vichitrani Vitrana Mahotsave Krishna Vishveshvarenante Nandasya Vrajamagate Mataji Avadyanta Vichitrani Vaditrani Mahotsave Krishna Vishveshvarenante Nandasya Vrajamagate Avadyanta vibrated in celebration of Vasudeva's son. Vichitrani, various. Vaditrani, musical instruments. Maha Utsave, in the great festival. Krishna, when Lord Krishna. Vishva Ishvare, the master of the entire cosmic manifestation. Anante, unlimitedly. Nandasya, of Maharaj Nanda. Vrajam, at the pasturing place. Agate, had so arrived. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Now that the all-pervading, unlimited Lord Krishna, the master of the cosmic manifestation, had arrived within the estate of Maharaj Nanda, various types of musical instruments resounded to celebrate the great festival. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4.7, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descendant of Bharata and the predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Whenever Krishna comes, once in a day of Brahma, he comes to the house of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. Krishna is the master of all creation, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Therefore, not only in the neighborhood of Nanda Maharaj's estate, but all over the universe and in all the other universes, musical sounds celebrated the auspicious arrival of the Lord. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shimate Praladananda Swami Dinamine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Dinamine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivisha Shashnavadi Pashyate Adeshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadveta Katadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So when Krishna appears, everything is fine everywhere. And Srila Prabhupada quotes in the purport the text from Bhagavad Gita, which gives the purpose of Krishna's appearance. And one purpose is to re-establish religion. And when the religious principles are not respected, are not followed anymore, Krishna comes again to reestablish religious principles. Sometimes people have the wrong conception about what's the purpose of the material world. As we said before, this material world is not Disneyland. So there is a purpose. As I gave this example before, you have to judge something by its purpose. So for example, this example which I gave before, so after this discussion we'll go for prasadam. And then I can take my telephone and then try to take the kitri with the telephone. And then I will see that this is not very good. And then I can say, oh, this guy is from Samsung. They don't know how to make a telephone because the kitri is not... it doesn't take enough kitri, and even if it's wet, it's not at all. So it's not a good telephone, you know. Like, so I can say it in this way, but someone more intelligent will say, "Oh, this is a telephone. This is used for calling people and for Facebook and for this, for that. And if you want to take prasadam, maybe you better use a spoon. It's better design. It's designed for this kind of activity." So it's similarly with this material world. You have to understand what's the purpose. If you don't understand the purpose, then you might get frustrated. Okay, so this world is not Disneyland. This world has two purposes. This world is meant for the souls who don't want to have anything to do with Krishna. So there's souls who are in the spiritual world who like to serve Krishna. And there's souls who don't like to serve Krishna. So these souls have to live somewhere. They have to be somewhere. So they have to be somewhere. And this somewhere is this material world. Krishna is like, okay, you don't want to be with me. Okay, I'm everything, so it's tough luck. But anyway, we'll have this material world where we pretend that I don't exist. And then there's two purposes. One is you try to enjoy this material world, and then you get frustrated. And then the other purpose is that after you get frustrated, usually, you understand that, look, maybe I can revise my consciousness, maybe. And then you can revise your consciousness and then go back to the spiritual world. So Krishna is very interested in having this world in such a way that people can practice religion. You can call it religion. They can practice spirituality in a way that they can come back to the spiritual world. So that's the purpose of the material world. Now, if you come and to the material world and you think that you're gonna enjoy, then it's tough luck, because it's not meant for that. So now we have this. These days there's this heavy flood in Slovenia, and yeah, I just briefly read but it seems really bad. It seems like some people lost their houses, and some people even died, and there's some suffering associated with this kind of events. And you might think the classical question, suffering is good, you know, like suffering in some way, suffering is really good because suffering makes people introspective. You know, they are thinking, why am I suffering? What's going on? You know, when you're happy, when things seem to go your way, then you don't think what's going on, what's the purpose, you know, yeah, life is good. But when a bit of suffering, then you're like, oh, what's going on? Why am I suffering? What's the problem? So suffering is good. And also, it's really a good exercise. One of the qualities of the devotees is that it's called Shastra Chakshush. They see things through the eyes of the Shastra. So it's good to try to analyze what's going on in the world from a Shastric perspective. See, okay, we have this, we're reading these books, Bhagavad Gita, srimad-bhagavatam, and we're looking at reality. And we're like, how can we understand reality? What's going on, reality? Yeah, anyway, what's going on? How can we understand this from the perspective of the Shastras? So we can see, okay, so now there's these floods, and then people are suffering. Why are they suffering? What's the problem? So then there's 2 levels of answering. First, this transcendental answer is that they are in the wrong place. If you're suffering, it's because you're in the material world. And if you want to stop suffering, you should go back to the spiritual world. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that this world is dukhalayam ashashvatam. Dukhalayam means that it's full of suffering. It is like that, so you cannot avoid. In Buddhism, there's these 4 noble truths. And Buddha says, first of these truths is, Buddha says, is there is suffering. So this material world is full of suffering. And then Krishna says it's not only full of suffering, but it's also temporary. Sometimes there's some suffering and you find something which is like some sort of enjoyment, some sort of peaceful position. And then Krishna says, yes, but it's temporary. Even in this material world, you find a good position, and then it's just 1 day, 3 days, 1 year, and then finish. Something else. Maybe some people find some shelter, like you have a house, you have a nice family, and then this disaster comes and it takes everything, like all your peaceful life is finished. It's like, I can imagine, it's probably quite shocking, you think you have some stable situation and finished. One moment. You probably work for it 10, 20 years, 30, and then. So that's the highest solution. You don't want suffering, you have to go back to the spiritual world. And then the second solution is that even among these sufferings, everything depends on following Krishna's rules. This world is meant to also educate. So it's also giving an opportunity to follow some rules. Somehow you don't like to be with Krishna. Like in this state, you have the state of Slovenia. You have free will. You don't have to love Slovenia. It is like you can love Slovenia. You cannot love. That's your free will. That's how. But there are some things which in Slovenia you cannot do. There's some rules. Okay, you want to be a citizen of Slovenia, you don't have to feel love and so on, but there are some rules. These things you can do, and these things you cannot do. So there is some expectation that you are acting on somehow a responsible level. that you're following some laws of the state. No? It's not, they are not forcing you to love, I don't know, you have to love Slovenia. But there's some rules that you have to follow. So similarly, in this material universe, it's made in such a way that you don't have to love Krishna. But you have to follow some rules. And it's not so much that you have to follow, but everything you do has some consequences. You can do whatever you want, and you have to pay the price. Sometimes children want to go away from their parents, and there is yes, okay, that can be done, but you pay your own bills. Before that, the parents were paying your bills, but now you want to live independent from your parents, no problem, but you pay your own bills, more or less. Independence comes with some responsibility. So there's this system which is meant to make people responsible in the universe. Whatever everyone does, there is some reaction. You do good things, you get good results. You do bad things, you get bad results. So this is called karma. And this karma is not so personal. It's a very impersonal system. Like you go to the court, the judge there doesn't have so much feelings, like, oh, I love this person, I don't love this person. Okay, what did he do? This. Okay, he takes the law book. Okay, for this, the result is this. Okay, 3 years in prison. Finish. No. And the problem is that the authorities in the universe, they are infallible. There's nothing that you can, get under the carpet that they don't see. They will see everything. Everything is recorded, and everything will give a result. Of course, sometimes there seems to be no result because there needs to be the right moment for the result to be given. So sometimes the result will be given after some time, but there is always a result. Okay, and there is also this individual karma, and there is also this idea of group karma, which is more or less not so much about a group. It's a group is a form which has the same reaction, is more or less formed of people who have to have same reaction, have done similar things in the past, and they have to have the same reactions. There's this there's this joke which I like, which explains quite well how this group karma works. So there's this guy on this cruising ship, and they are just enjoying. And then this big storm is coming, and this person, like there's one person, and this is a bit pious, not too much, but a bit. And he is like thinking, okay, this is last chapter, and we're gonna die, everyone. So he looks into the sky and he says, "Oh God, I know I was sinful, and I understand that I have to die, and that's your judgment, and that's completely fair. But there's other people on this boat, and what have they done? What do they have to suffer for my sins. And there is a voice from the sky, and it comes, well, if you know how much time it took me to put you all together. So more or less that's how group karma works, you know, like there's when there's a group calamity, people are somehow put by authorities in the universe in that position that they have same reaction together. But it's more or less like individual. Anyway, so the whole idea is that there are some rules in the universe, and following the rules of the universe means more or less following indirectly Krishna. Is not direct, but indirectly you accept there is some rules, which is eventually Krishna's rules, and the whole point is the more you accept Krishna, the better life is in the material world. You accept his laws, okay, then life is a bit better. You accept his laws and you do some worship to Krishna, you accept, oh, Krishna also exists, I mean, he has his problems, I have my problems, but I accept his, and he's stronger than me, and he seems to be like a good guy. Then you get elevated to a higher position in the material world. But whatever position you are in, there, if you're still in the material world, there is some suffering, some problems. It cannot be 100% happiness. Even in higher planets, there's all srimad-bhagavatam, canto 7, 8, they are full of problems that are happening with the demigods, which they are living like long lives and high standard of happiness, but still there's problems. So, and this is meant to discourage us. So this is meant to discourage us from finding solutions in the material world. It's meant to tell us, look, there is no solution in the material world. There's no shelter. Your house will break down. Eventually, maybe yes, maybe not. But your body will break down at some point. So there's no solution. The only solution is that you worship Krishna and then you return back to Godhead. And then in the spiritual world, there are no floods. Or there might be floods, but if they are full of bliss. Everyone is completely blissful when there is a flood in the spiritual world. If there are any flood. Everything in the spiritual world is full of joy. Okay, so this suffering sometimes is also, and these moments is really good to become more introspective. As I said before, suffering makes usually people more introspective. And there's, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there's 4 categories of people who approach him. If someone is more pious, then he will approach Krishna when he's suffering. Yeah, this is quite practical. We had these COVID lockdowns in Romania, and after this COVID, we had. I went out and, or I think there was more or less some sort of lockdown, and I went out for book distribution. You know, like I was distributing books, and like more or less everyone took the books. You know, like because there was a problem, and they were thinking, "Whoa, yeah, maybe maybe there's some solution to this problem." But the main problem with this suffering, with this mentality, is that as soon as they stop suffering, people don't take it seriously anymore. So then after 2 weeks after, there was no more lockdowns, rules relaxed a bit. I was going same place, more or less probably same people. And I was trying to distribute them books, spiritual knowledge, downtown. Yeah, now I'm interested. Life is good. So, there's problems. Problem is that people have short memory, and so they have to suffer again. So Krishna will very nicely put them in more suffering. The other point is that for the devotees, we have to see karma, this suffering, a bit differently, because for the devotees it's mostly not karma. Karma is like impersonal. Karma is like you do something, you get something, finish. But for devotees, it's called Krishna karma, and it looks very similar. It might look very similar for a devotee, but the purpose is to bring someone closer to Krishna. So sometimes you can get reactions, some sort of reactions, and from your perspective, it's good to think, okay, this is a reaction for my past sinful activities, and I better become more serious. But Krishna gives these reactions in a way that you can make spiritual progress. And also sometimes it can give you reactions in a way to make you detached. It might ruin your activity, because he wants you to become more serious. You're thinking, oh, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I don't know. Just to give an example, maybe he's not going to do that. I have this nice football career, and Krishna, I'm chanting this very serious, and this gives me an injury. My football career is over. I'm just saying, maybe he does it, maybe he doesn't do it. But he might do this, he might see, look, why so much football? Just move to the ashram and chant Hare Krishna. Why so much football? Of course, for everyone has different situation, and Krishna knows what's useful for everyone. But the main point is sometimes Krishna might ruin something material just to put you in a better position spiritually. So that's very important. That it's not impersonal anymore. It's not just some reaction you're getting just because you have to get some reaction. It's like it's personal. it's the loving. It's the love of the father, usually the mother gives you love in you can do that, you can do that. And the father, when the loving father, sometimes he gives you a reaction, look, you cannot go that way, you cannot do this, you have to be punished, and you have to understand that you have to be more responsible. What's this? More or less. So Krishna is more like, sometimes he's like a loving father. And we have to see this in this way, that, I'm getting this. It's hard that you're there and you're like, oh, Krishna just destroyed my football career because he loves me. Okay. It might be hard to understand at that point, but if you're introspective. Okay. So, of course, these kind of things, they can be hard to accept even for devotees, in theory it's like, yeah, sure. But when it happens to you, you're like, oh, why does this happen to you, to me? Yeah, and it's hard to see it as Krishna's mercy and to see, okay, what can I learn from this situation? How can I become more Krishna conscious? How can I become more serious, and to be thankful for the hard knocks. It's hard, huh? So And of course, we don't really preach that way to people on the street. We don't say, "Oh, these floods are because you are sinful." you so. Of course, it's true, and then but we need to find a way how to present it in a more palatable way, that they can accept it, like that. It's not just truthful, that it's also acceptable for them, and that it's productive, like in some way. I don't know. We have to think how to give them some knowledge without telling them, like directly. You cannot. Most of the people will not accept it, like that way. So the solution, the Vedic solution to this problem is floods, is more Harinam Sankirtan and more book distribution. It's probably, if we, and of course we have to do it in an intelligent way, because in Romania at some point they had some floods, and the devotees went there and chanted, and people were like, they had no food supplies, and they had and it was quite it didn't get the right effect. Let's call it like that. People were thinking, what's with these crazy people, like. Of course, from a spiritual perspective, they got the highest benefit of hearing the Maha Mantra, and maybe they got some prasadam, but so we have to see how to do it in an intelligent way. But that's the actual solution: giving more chanting and more book distribution, more, because if you don't give people knowledge, if you don't educate people, they are gonna do the same things again, and the results will be the same. And the reaction might be harder and harder, more serious, until they wake up and say, maybe we are doing something wrong. And then Krishna will be, Tana, finally, like this Eureka moment. So, we have to do it in an intelligent way. But the point is that we have to distribute this, to chant more, to distribute more knowledge to people, and to educate them, and that they can understand what's going on, and then they can see things from a spiritual perspective, and then they can improve. If you don't know, you just hit your head against the wall and you don't know why, then how can you change it? You're just gonna do the same thing over and over again. So education is really important, and not only for non-devotees, also for devotees. If you want to survive in the Krishna consciousness movement during the hard times, so-called hard times, you have to read Srila Prabhupada's books, and you have to understand what's going on. And then when some problem happens, and if you have the proper understanding what's going on, what is the solution, and where's the destination, then this makes it a lot easier to go through that problem. Otherwise, if you don't have the knowledge, you don't know what's going on, it's really hard, and you'll say, oh, this Krishna consciousness doesn't work. Whatever. So it's really important to distribute this knowledge not only amongst non-devotees, but amongst also devotees. So that's, Okay. There's... Oh! Okay. This is by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada found this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He was studying, he was translating Chaitanya Charitamrita. And he found this verse. And he translated it, he made the purport, and he sent it immediately to all the ISKCON temples. Usually you wait for the book, and then the books get published and so on. So this verse he sent directly to all the temples. And this verse says in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya, man becomes strong and stout by eating sufficient grains, but the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna gradually becomes weak and falls down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom, and he begins to laugh, sing, and dance. And the purport is even more interesting. He says, Srila Prabhupada says, all the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated. Must. This is the word. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, srimad-bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, after some time, they will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal, blissful life of transcendental pleasure. I'll stop here. I already speak too much. If there's some questions, comments.
Which verse is this?
Madhya 25, 278.
Related to this karma, I heard or read somewhere that even areas or places could have a karma. Is that possible?
Maybe I understand there's some modes which affect some areas, and you can say it's more like, but I don't know. I'm not an expert in this, but somehow you can see that there's different places are affected by different modes, and in some places that, like there's there's a story from Mahabharata. The Pandavas are going somewhere. I don't remember the details, and they are crossing a river, and after they crossing the river, Bhima is like very agitated. Everyone is very agitated. Some strange thing, like in a strange way. And then Yudhishthira says, "Oh, this is not a good place. We have to go from here." Yes, Yudhishthira is wise. So, yeah, it's some different, but also this karma can be purified. But yeah, I don't know. Mike.
Hare Krishna. I just want to clear one thing. Okay, Hare Krishna. In the beginning, you said that Krishna comes once in the day of Brahma,
Yeah.
and on the other hand, he also said that he comes whenever is declined of spiritual movement, and
Yeah.
when are more demons and less
Yeah.
devotees. So
How these two fit together? Well, he can come. Personally, he comes once in a day of Brahma, as in the form of Krishna, and then after, in the same day of Brahma, in the same cycle, Lord Chaitanya comes. But that's not the only appearance. There's also other avatars, and there's also other expansions, and there's Shakti-avesh avatars, and so it's yeah. So it's sometimes personally, sometimes not. Okay. Jai. Grantara srimad-bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
14, da. Sad samo da spustimo to. Rukicu. Evo sad ćemo...
Hare Krishna.